Hi there, it's Gill, Tiney and Erkan Ali at the Journey of Possibility podcast for BeCollaboration, and today we have a very special guest, Chris Sherlock. Welcome, Chris.
Hello, guys.
Talking to you.
Look forward to speaking to you guys.
Okay, we're back. Chris, you're sitting there with a little heart sign. What's going on, bro?
Yes, well, I'm keeping
Keep the love.
I'm keeping it all together.
Yeah. So listen, I'm so absolutely chuffed that you're here. I mean, and we're here to have a fantastic conversation. You know, the sun's out. We've had a terrible little period. The door's open for the first time on a podcast. I think this year, for quite some time. And, you know, I'm just absolutely delighted you're here, and welcome to the Journey of Possibility podcast.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, great. So
I'm bloody terrified.
No. Well, let's start with the easy stuff first. Let's start. When you first came to BeCollaboration,
Yes.
about a year ago, we've worked out,
Yeah.
ish.
Yeah, it was May.
Do you remember when you walked through the door?
Yes.
What did it feel like?
I was on at the time I was on a journey of discovery, I'd say. So I was curious. Because the way it all happened was, so Erkan and I have known each other for years, and I was Facebook buddies with Erkan. And
you still turned up.
Didn't put you off at all.
It always amazes me that, you know, people watch all that stuff I go on about, and they turn up and think, bloody hell, you paying attention to any of it?
So I wasn't paying any attention to any podcasts or clips or whatever the case may be about BeCollaboration, but I saw SO on my car. Sorry, BeCollaboration, but my interest in BeCollaboration wasn't generated through BeCollaboration and Erkan's Facebook page. It was actually through SO on my car. So I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. You know, I knew he was a car nut and he had this racing in his blood and he had a track car and da 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 da.
So you turned up thinking we were all going to be talking about cars all afternoon?
Oh, no. It wasn't like that. So looking at what Erkan was doing was basically sparked initially by SO on my car. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I paged down to have a look at what else he was up to. And I saw this thing called BeCollaboration. And I read a bit about it and I thought, okay, this could be quite interesting to, you know, come along and meet up with a group of people and connect and network and all of that kind of stuff.
It's
because
the worst thing that could happen.
I was basically at a bit of a loose end at the time, and in a position where I was looking for my next adventure. Let's put it that way. Okay.
That's nice.
That's the SO on my car strap.
So I turned up, and it was a Hartford meeting, and I walked into the Hartford meeting, and he didn't know I was coming apart from seeing my name, and yeah, there I was. So I wanted to make it a bit of a surprise, which I think it was to you, wasn't it?
Well, because I think when you registered, I see the name come through, and I thought I did.
I know that, but I know him.
I did, but we hadn't spoken for so long, so
Yes.
You know, whether you turn up or not, that's another matter.
Yeah.
And then you did. I remember you was wearing a white shirt.
I know that skeleton.
You were wearing white. I was wearing blue.
You had blue
it's
shoes.
a bromance actually
Blue
going on
shoes.
between you two.
And they weren't suede.
Oh, those new ones.
You
The
had
white
your
ones.
blue leather shoes on.
Irresistible.
Which
as always.
apparently that's Jackie's influence on
Yes,
you.
yes. I would never have worn blue.
Chuck out your tans and get some blue.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Okay, so there we go. So yeah, I was completely open-minded about BeCollaboration, and I had some time to, you know, look at new things, and just thought to myself, yeah, let's go along and see what these guys are up to, and you know, could potentially be interesting, could be a crock of you know what. Just be open-minded and go and see. So when I turned up, I saw a room of people. I thought, okay, all right, and a screen and a clipboard and da 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 da.
Yeah. You thought we were professional, didn't you?
So there was a bit of professionalism and a bit of thought that had gone into it, and yeah, I think you could honestly say up until a certain point that I sat there and just listened and absorbed with regards to what was going on the first time I went to BeColl, and yeah, it's been a fantastic experience since. So thank you very much, my friends, for accepting me into your little community.
You're very welcome.
Which we hope will flourish and grow going forward.
Can you understand now, looking back, what it was that was pivotal in getting in your understanding of going, I need to join this group, I need to get involved, I need to be part of the community, rather than just going, well, that was a lovely meeting, which some people do, and they disappear and we never see them again. But you wanted more. You weren't. I
wanted more because at the time, you know, going through my head were all sorts of different things. So, you know, what do we do about the quarry up the road in Bengia? Yeah. Gee whiz, what am I going to do with regards to finding, you know, my next piece of work? And at the at the time I'd just come out of working with a bunch of people that I'd known since school days, and I had stopped driving around the M25 because it had affected my health, and all the travel to Africa and bumping up and down on dirt roads had really affected my neck and so on and so forth. So the best thing to do is just to get out of there for health reasons. But you leave behind something that you really love doing. You know, we had a business that was really, really helping people and still does help people. And consequently, I'm in a position where I'm trying to, you know, get myself back into that and be part of a group who have money to invest in projects that will have a significant impact on people's lives. And yeah, I was just fluid.
I can get there. I can really hear the inquiry and exploring, and you know, like, let's have an adventure. Let's find out what's going on. But I think what I haven't kind of heard yet is what made you kind of go, I want to be part of this. As you can articulate.
So I saw the opportunity of joining a group of people who had skill sets in various different areas that I didn't have, and I thought going forward with regards to doing something new, I could potentially take a lot of lessons from what these other people were doing in their personal lives and in their business lives to help me on this next adventure that I was going on. So I saw it as an opportunity to learn myself and to potentially open up new avenues. So I thought, right, that's really why I need to be, you know, part of this.
Yeah.
You know, you're a crazy bunch of idiots anyway.
And it's on the doorstep. You know, it's convenient.
It's local.
So get going with a crazy bunch of idiots.
I remember one question. I don't know if this was it was more of a telling on where you were at the time when you turned up, because we hadn't actually spoken personally. You'd come. I think I'd delivered the introduction. Maybe did we do introduction back then?
I must have done. Yeah. A
Yeah.
year ago,
I think I know what you were going to say, and it wasn't the first meeting. Was it?
You came to the second.
It was the second meeting in London.
No, the first one.
The first one.
Yeah, because I remember you sitting there like this.
Like people do.
And I thought, he's getting into this, right? And he was talking about this idea of a community of people connecting, sharing values, creating opportunities together, and ultimately collaborating on projects and, you know, And then you said to me, what about scumbags?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
Yes. I
You
thought
did.
that was the second meeting, but anyway.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
You may be right with
But
regards
it's
to...
how I remember it, because I remember
Yes.
you kind of asked, because it's not a question we haven't been asked before, is it? Because it's a really interesting question, because one of the things we talked about what BeCollaboration stands for and the values of the community, we've always said that is the filter for the community, is the values, and it's something we spend time on every meeting, and I don't mean just the official, the formal meetings, every meeting we read, what do they call it when you calibrate. We
I thought you were
recalibrate.
going to say gurgitate. No, it's not that one.
Yeah, there are those who probably think,
Yeah.
but we recalibrate, because it's easy to say we believe in love and we believe in integrity and we believe in fun, and but how often are you really being that? Sometimes we get off, if I used the metaphor earlier on about like a little compass, and your integrity is north, and right now you're not quite on that track. You've got to get your integrity back around your fitness, around your food, around your money, around your relationship, whatever, right? So part of the thing when you asked me this question about what about scumbags, was to me was very telling. Because I remember I looked at you and I kind of thought, oh, I can see where this is going. Because to me, if you're going to invest yourself in something with other people, one of the things we don't want to be, especially us at a certain age in our lives, we don't want to be lied to, we don't want to be tricked, we don't want to be pressured, we don't want to be respected. And I think scumbags have in what I heard about that was it's all very well you're going to get together and do stuff together, but how can you mitigate? I can't remember what my answer was to you at the time, but how would you say that has, since you asked that question, how further forward have you come in terms of asking that question, understanding how you can work that through when you work with people, given we've had quite a lot of engagement?
It is a very, very good question. So in terms of me as a person, very straight and down the line, and probably some people would say too black and white. However, for me, it's either right or it's wrong, and consequently, when you go through life and you meet people who are a bit of a Del Boy character, lovely, charming, and but very, very.
I grew up with them.
Yes, yeah. You know what I
I've
mean.
done a lot of work on this one.
Yes. So they'll actually tell you one thing to your face, and they'll be doing something behind your back that's not.
Could you call that duplicitous?
Yes, of course. Yeah, and there are many people around who are like that, and for me, what I've noticed about this particular community is the set of values that the people have within it. We go on about the values within BeCollaboration, and there are a lot of them, but there are many that are based around integrity and effectively doing the right thing. Always acting and doing the right thing, and not telling porky pies, white lies, whatever you want to call them, and trying to get away with it, or not being transparent, and so on and so forth. So,
or even just having the balls to turn up and go, yeah, you know what, I messed up. You know what, I said I would, or I didn't, and own it. Have that courage.
Yes. So what has struck me about the community is that we've seen some scumbags come and go, haven't we?
It's called life, isn't it?
Within the community.
Have we? Do you want to name anyone? No, we've got a list here. You know who you are. Just let me just get to my black lip,
yeah. So the real point is, in all honesty, there's a group of individuals with a set of values that have bought into this community, and what I'd say is never waver on your values. If you have a set of values in life and you stick by them, Some people won't like it, which is fine, which is fair enough. They don't like it, they don't like it. But if you have your set of values which you're prepared to stand by, just stand by those values and continue on your journey. You may get sort of brought into, you know, a side road, cul-de-sac or whatever the case may be, but very soon you realise, okay, this is not quite for me, and you get back on your course.
For me, values, when I'm working with people, I'm trying to work out if this is someone I'm aligned with or not. It's like a Geiger counter. You know, you can almost like just put it up against them, and when they talk, you go, you can hear the Geiger. I can hear it, right? You know, and I think we've been involved in something recently that we started in a collaboration. Really awesome opportunity.
Oh, fantastic!
And,
really got our juices
everybody got their juices on. We're all up for it, and very quickly, because I always do my best to make sure values are aligned. We talk about this idea of cultural, you know, value due diligence. It's like, how do you work out if your values are aligned when people don't know what their values are?
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, and very quickly, I worked out in engagement with that person that these values are not aligned, and we're not going to pull them together. There was no commitment. It was very clear to me that wouldn't work that way. Now imagine if you'd ignore those signs. 2 years later, you're down the line and you're in business and you sign contracts and
to deal with the fallout.
Exactly.
Exactly. You know, it's just like the example of me going off to Africa and seeing that fantastic business that was for sale, and going along with a group that had the ability to buy it like that and do a lot of good work with it. But they didn't like the managers of the business. And they couldn't see themselves working with the managers in the business because of a number of things, including rudeness and
behaviour.
Just dismissiveness and arrogance and so on and so forth. So basically they had decided on the plane and the next morning when we got back, no, we can't work with these people. That's it.
And this project was a major project, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Major, and it would have made a big difference to that business.
Yeah.
But going back to the community though, I think, and what you were saying about the energy, is that we don't say, oh no, you're not good enough for us, you can't join. It is, and we've had, as you say, scumbags, probably a strong word, but people have come in that haven't quite fitted. They've been a little square peg in a round hole, and we don't have to say anything to them because they rub up against people who do have the culture, who do get it, and they're like, I'm a bit busy, I'm going to go and do something else. And you go, fine, that's okay. It's not right for you at this moment. And it's because, quite honestly, sometimes they're too big for their boots, or they're worried about competition, or they see it as it's not a place I'm going to make any money, or it's a place where I've got to make too much of a time commitment. Whatever their scarcity is within their own mindset, it doesn't work for them, and they kind of get discounted. So the people that are left behind, it's like the cream rises.
Can I say that slightly different? I wouldn't be quite. I'd say it's a clear proposition. It's a complex one, but if it ignites someone's imagination, it gets them thinking in a way that they hadn't thought about things, or you're actually saying the things I've been thinking about. It's kind of almost like it self-selects. Self-selects. We don't ask anyone to join, so anyone who's a member has said, hey, hands up, I'm in. Anyone who leaves and goes away, or comes out for a second visit and maybe never comes back or whatever, they've and it doesn't mean they're a scumbag, by the way. If you've been to a BeColl meeting and you didn't join, Jill, doesn't mean you're a scumbag, okay? Although
you're going to regret asking this question.
Although you may want to look in the mirror very long and hard, right?
The inference was not there. Yeah, he's just found it.
No, but I think the question was very telling, because if we're going to collaborate, if we're going to collaborate, do I want to collaborate with someone that's not going to keep time, that's not going to do what they say, who's going to shuffle about or not be straight, or is going to try and manipulate me, or whatever our thing is.
Sure.
One of the things that we want to be clear, because you go to other business networking meetings, all you're doing is getting a referral. We don't. You saying I'm recommending me to someone, I want to take that. Yeah, I'll go and talk to them about whatever it is they want to do. Now, obviously, depending on your reputation, I don't know if I'd want to go to somebody that you've recommended and I don't really respect you, because I'll be like, well, they may think I'm like you because you've referred me. But at the end of the day, you'd probably still go and explore that, right? Yeah. So there's no real tarnishment on those kind of networking events, because at the end of the day, if you don't do a good job they won't recommend you again. And if you do a good job, they'll recommend you again. So it's all kind of quid pro quo, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But collaboration is different. Collaboration means I'm going to create something with you and you that wouldn't exist otherwise. That's a different thing. That's like something like an air balloon with someone. You know,
it's massively different. Isn't
totally
it?
different level of trust, different level of understanding who each other. So it takes more.
So.
Well, you're in a hot air balloon together. You want to be, you know, make sure you can trust each other. Don't want to get thrown out of the hot air balloon. We don't need Erkan anymore if it goes. Or whatever. Or someone starts tinkering with the things, you know.
Yes. So
hot air balloon.
We've seen people come in and take.
Yes, exactly.
And once they've taken enough and their personal circumstances have changed or whatever the case may be, they go, ciao, see ya.
Yeah.
And the point is that their values are not aligned with the values of the rest of the group. And consequently, it's difficult to see them having any sort of future with regards to the community because they're not really participating. It's all about me, all the time. And, you know, those are sometimes you can change those people.
I was just going to say, when you're in the community and you kind of go, okay, I've taken what I need, I'm off. There's still that opportunity. They're going to go, do you know, it was really good and I really enjoyed it and there's something missing in my life and I think I'll go back, because there's that space where people could always grow and learn and take it on.
Well, we had a very interesting conversation recently with one of the leaders within the organisation, and it was about I want to do something different now to what I've done before. I don't want to change my role, and I've got, you know, I kind of feel like I've outgrown that, and I want a new challenge. And I was like, I was listening to him. I said, that all makes sense. Yeah, normally people go, yeah, fair enough, I want a new challenge. I said, but you know what? Jill, well, I'll speak for myself. Jill can say what she wants. I don't run BeCollaboration for my own personal benefit. Now, I've got to have a personal benefit because it wouldn't maintain me. I mean, maybe it's the...
Wouldn't inspire you to keep coming if you weren't getting anything out of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't sit in a BeCollaboration meeting, because I need them at the front of the room to give me something that I'm looking for. Yeah? I'm there. Actually, the biggest... In fact, we did this in the Founders videos the other day. One of the things that I bring to the table as a member is listening to people with a commitment that they're going to transform. You know, being their audience, being there, looking out, you know, to challenge something they said or support something they said or pat them on the back. Or, I know Jill's brilliant at this, you know, especially when people were like, because she arranged a lot of people who, you know, schedules them to be at the front of the room. Quite often people say, oh, no, not me. She's going, well, no, I think you don't understand how this works. Let me tell you how it's going to work. You're going to be in front of that room.
You were one of them.
Yeah, you're one of them. And to us, that's a transformation. That is why we're there. So it's a bit like being there when the flower blooms. I'm not there, and also when you see a flower bloom, there's the perfume, there's the colour, there's the beauty of it. You know, you don't have to cut it and take it away. You can just enjoy it for what it is, and it isn't about, you know, it's not about your sustenance so much in that respect. It's more about seeing that in other people's lives, and that's a big jump from being self, or what's in it for me kind of paradigm in the fear, scarcity, competition to one of love, connection, abundance. Actually, authentically being connected with people for me is a massive. It gives me sustenance, but I'm not doing it because I need to be. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm going to come in and listen to someone talking about investment, so I can go and get some investment, because you can do that in other ways. But to be there and see other people's growth and contribute to that growth, and then sometimes it's you at the front of the room, sometimes it's someone else at the front of the room, sometimes it's the first time.
And what I love as well is when you're there and you're witnessing somebody to blossom, and I love the flower metaphor. It's like the pollen goes around as well, and when you see somebody else at the end of that meeting go, oh, what she said then, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go off, and it's like, wow, you know, I was just sat here. And okay, it's because of us we've kind of orchestrated it and they're at the front of the room, but that has then planted a seed there and a seed there and a seed there.
I love the pollen thing, because the pollen thing is probably the thing that, you know, you kind of get that kind of, you walk out and think, you know what, I will find my mum, tell her I love her. You know what, I will book that thing, I will go and take, you know, it inspires you to take on something maybe you're not taking on. So the value isn't necessarily an information transfer, it's so much more deeper than that. You know, this idea that I like this idea of authentic connection. Actually, you're sitting with people having real conversations about what matters. You know, and on that note, I mean, how would you say? I mean, because we've spent a lot of time together, but it's not just me, but that's all part of the flavour of the community. Is how much is being around other people that having. I remember there's one time you saw someone at the front of the room share, and you went, "Wow, she's amazing," and you look at your life and you think, "What am I?" Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and to me, that courage when you see that in someone else gives you the kind of thing. You know what? I can. You know, if what's the name can handle that, I mean, God, you know,
no, for sure. You know, there's been some revelations for me in terms of the way that some members of the community have basically shared their life experiences, and I took that on board, and you know, I hope that I was able to deliver something of value when I did my own. Know and be known. And yeah, you know, we're with a group of people who are there for one another and look out for one another, and who have this common set of values, and it's effectively becoming team-like in a way, and we're ending up with a core team of people who, you know, attend regularly and give a lot, not necessarily wanting to take a lot, and you know, you really are what you project in life, aren't you?
For sure.
And you know, it's really been quite a significant few months for me in particular, because I've been trying to do a number of different things. So one of the ways that BeCollaboration really has helped me is all of the dreams that I've had that have been suppressed for years, I'm now trying to bring to fruition through.
Funny, I've got my notebook here, Dream Big, because I think that really is really actually telling. Because these things are kind of are becoming irrigated, aren't they? And there's sunshine on them, there's water going on them, and they're becoming viable in a way that.
So I would not be able to be in a position where I could see my dreams coming to fruition, I don't believe, unless I was a member of this community. And you know, my message to people when I did my Know and Be Known was dream big, and you've got all of this sort of stuff that's suppressed in the back of your mind, and you don't do it because you've got family commitments, you've got work commitments, and there's always something going wrong here, there and everywhere that you've got to deal with.
It's called life.
And exactly. And you know, the dreams that you have as a child are never fulfilled unless you put yourself in a situation where you can move towards making those dreams a reality. And you know, time will tell. Time will tell, but let's see what happens. Let's see if we can get this motor racing team to go to Le Mans in a few years' time. And
motor racing team to go to Le Mans by when?
Yeah, but it's going to be. I said a few years, but we've got to be very, very careful, because the drivers will be too old.
I know, we've got to get moving.
Exactly. Well, you know, there's certain people that drive at Le Mans. I think one guy's late 50s this year. So
well, I make late 50s.
No, you can be pit crew.
Yeah,
and so can I. But
you just thought
nothing.
We're not even quick enough for that, mate. I tell you.
Nothing more than that.
Yeah.
But to do that as an experience will be fantastic.
I'm not going to let that go by.
What, the dream big or the?
Well, the dream big in this case,
or
the
Le
Mans, going to Le Mans and racing, right? Because I tell you why I can't let it go. Because part of when Jill and I were first bringing this concept together, one of the things we learned early on, that we started to do things that we hadn't even remembered, you know, they weren't even, like you said it in the back of your mind, I'd say in your heart, you know, deep down.
Yeah.
And the thing that brought you to BeColl was cars, and it's something I know you're very passionate.
Yeah.
We went at London Classic Car Show, and we went for a stroll around the show, and he's going, that's a blah, 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 and that's a this, and I don't know this stuff. I just, there's some marks that got different ways of, you know, and all that. And I realised how much he really loves cars, right? Now, I really love cars, obviously, as you know. And the thing was, even to speak out loud something as audacious as, let's take a team to Le Mans. Now, I don't get you're someone that just talks, you know, out of his arse. Sorry, best I could do, right? Yeah. But you're not. But you said something that people have heard, and they've asked me, "Is this guy serious?"
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about the racing driver and his manager, right? Yeah. And I'm saying, did Chris say it? And he went, yeah. I said, then I would go with that, because to me, but the thing was, this is the thing, right, Chris? You're a 50-something-year-old man. You've been very successful in your careers. You've had this spell of reinvention, and that blew you onto our, you know, that little pollen landed in our room.
That's right. And
you are now opening your mouth saying Le Mans team. It won't matter what it is. It could be whatever it is, right?
That's a dream. Let's go and execute.
Right. Now, to me, that to me,
it's just a project.
But right. That to me is the very essence of this community. Is that when we start saying things that maybe we've never even said before in a space where it can be heard, and say, you know what, we can make that happen. Yeah. But I don't know how we're going to make it happen. I've never taken a team to Le Mans. You taken a team to Le Mans?
But we'll go and learn. We'll learn things at Brands Hatch at the weekend. We'll learn things at at Rockingham the weekend after. Well,
let's put it this way.
We'll make a plan.
We're closer to that today than we've ever been.
Of course. Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah.
Right. And to me, that is what makes this very exciting. Whether it's designing a program, creating a project, presenting, writing a book, doing podcasts. Whatever it is this community is committed to people thriving and excelling and living those dreams and experiencing it.
Yes.
Even having a dream and working towards that is probably the ultimate to joy and fulfillment. Because what happens when you've done it? You've done it. Yeah. You know, we got to Le Mans, we did it, we came fifth, whatever. Well, whatever.
Steady on.
Let's
just get there first.
But then it becomes something. But what I'm saying is that becomes something you did. And there's loads of things we've all done. Our audience, you know, if you're listening to this, there's loads of things you've done, you've achieved, and they're banked. Yeah. What you know? So what are we working towards with others that inspires us? Is for me why you being part of this is so exciting. Because I don't get you're just saying, hey, look, it wouldn't be Le Mans team, raise the money for BeColl, create programs, you've made difference en masse to thousands of people in your projects.
Yes.
Tens of thousands, right?
Yes, and right now we're trying to save a town, you know. And
no small feat.
How many people in that town?
115,000.
115,000 people, and there you are in Hertford working on something to try and rejuvenate a community.
On the other side of the world.
On the other side of the planet, right?
Yeah.
Right, and to me, that's
it's like herding the cats.
Yeah.
Come on.
But the thing is, right? Isn't this absolutely accurate? You can't do that on your own.
Absolutely,
you can't.
Yeah.
So to me, the expression of BeCollaboration for me and Gill from the beginning was making a difference en masse. If that money, that project comes together and we're involved with it, even the involvement we've had up until now, we've been part of that story.
Yes.
Because you can't go around making a difference to 115,000 people on your own.
No.
You've got to touch something that touches something that touches something that touches something that has that cascade, that impact. And that's what I love about the way you look at what we're doing. We don't look at where it is, we're looking at the impact it can have 10, 15, 20 years down the line.
And up the road, we've got a flipping quarry that's been dormant and disused for 27 years.
Yeah. Okay. I remember you took me up there last June.
And it's just it's a scar on the landscape. And, you know, they're still arguing over it. So the whole idea is to turn it into a community, which will have, you know, sporting facilities, shops, space for small businesses, housing, you name it, get it done and put it in there. But as we can see with regards to, you know, what's going on and the desires of certain corporates that are are operating in this world, they don't really care about that. They just care about wrecking a field and turning it into another quarry. And let me tell you that if they do that, will they rehabilitate it? They most certainly will not. It will be like the one that has been derelict for, you know, all of those years. And we saw what could be done with a quarry when we went to Kent a few months ago. So, you know, these kind of things are really, really important to me, and the community here is up in arms over it because they don't want it on their doorstep, and right next door to where they want to dig is a school. So let's rather do something
let me
positive
ask you
about
this question, because you did your Know and Be Known recently,
Yes.
and I'm starting to find out new things about you. Although we spent a lot of time together, I'm starting to find new things. I mean, I found out today you used to be a diving instructor, right?
Yes.
So we'll get onto that in a second. But why do you care so much? Why do you think why? So why are we doing BeCollaboration when we could spend all our time trying to make loads of money or whatever? So what do you think in you gives you this concern for wider social impact?
I've seen poverty, real poverty, and it's not nice. And I've also seen a level slightly above real poverty, which is still not nice. And I've seen a level slightly above that, and it's still not nice. And when I went through the process of working with my last company, the whole ethos was we need to have some sort of impact where we invest money. And this can be simple things. So, for example, in one of the villages close to one of the farms that the fund has, the village doesn't have any water. So what they have to do is they have to send people on bicycles and on foot 1.5 kilometres down the road to a dam to go and get some water, and then they have to lug it back. And typically it's children that do this. So we just felt, okay, this is a relatively straightforward thing. This will save them, you know, a lot of time if we put a tank at the edge of the village, which we did. So it was a very, very simple job to do. Put a pipeline in with a pump. The pump fills the tank up, and then they can go and they can take water out of the tank at a tap. And it's a communal tap, and there's one rule, right? If the boss man drives by and the tap's running and there's nobody there, we cut the water off and you won't have any water. Do you understand? Yes. And they communicated that around their little village, and nobody leaves the tap running.
It's precious.
Because it is a precious commodity for them. It's not really a commodity. You know, it's a luxury.
Yeah.
You see, to have a tap to go to fill a pot or a water bottle or whatever the case.
And yet
may be.
we wouldn't think twice, would we?
No, we have heating, we have running water. They don't have hot water. They've got to heat it up on a fire. So, and that's not real poverty. You see, real poverty is much worse than that. So, a small investment can actually go a long way. And you know, there are fantastic things happening in Asia and Africa and Latin America where money's going into communities to basically create jobs. And with the creation of jobs in isolated and remote areas, you've got the ability of having an impact through those wages on the nearby people. And what then happens is that with money in those little villages, people start in business.
Yeah.
So our philosophy is always associated with one simple tenet. If you can put somebody into business, then it is likely that the impact will be sustainable going forward, and that's what we're always trying to achieve.
Ironically, over Christmas, I don't know about you, but I don't always buy people gifts. So we use Lend with Care. So basically, you shove some money into this charity, and they invest it into businesses in various places, and you just choose. Oh, I think I'll invest it in that village, or I think I'll invest it in that school, whatever. Yeah. So I did this for a friend of mine, and then last month at London, one of the representatives of there came as a guest.
Oh wow! Okay.
Phyllis Santa Maria. So I'm still waiting to have a chat with Phyllis. But it's interesting how, you know, I'd never heard of Lend with Care until last December. And that's something. And so when I saw she was coming, and I looked at that, oh, hello, that's interesting. And then you talk about exactly the same thing as that's what you're passionate about, and that's how you see you want to do something for someone. Not to say here's some money, go and sort yourself out. It's like, no, let's put you in business and let's make this work. And so tell us the story about the place in Australia and how that the knock-on effect of the funds that you need to put in there, and how it's going to affect 150,000 people.
115. So what it is a community in Queensland in the sugar belt, and they have a number of sugar mills. Can't really say too much about it because it's still confidential. But this organisation is really the hub of a farming community, and the farming community down the eastern coast of Queensland is typically a sugarcane growing area. It's in the tropics, and this sugarcane grows like wildfire. So what they rely on is a group of over 1,000 farmers to farm cane on their land, and then the cane is delivered to a mill. So the mill crushes the sugar and produces juice, which then eventually becomes raw sugar, which is not brown sugar as you know it, but it's one of the early steps to getting brown sugar. But it's more or less brown sugar, and then there's this thick stuff called molasses. And then what's left over is the pulp of the sugarcane being crushed, which is called bagasse. And you can use bagasse to generate electricity by burning it, and it heats up a boiler. Boiler generates steam. Steam turbine can generate electricity, and the steam and the heat is used in the sugar process to basically extract the juice from the sugarcane. So it's one of these industries which is very, very green, apart from the actual burning of the substance itself, to enable you to create electricity. And the whole problem is that they as a business had basically decided to expand into areas that they weren't experts in. Funny that, isn't it? They took on too much debt, and as a result of that, they haven't been able to pay the debt down because they've had a few difficult seasons, and with not being able to pay the debt down, they can't maintain the mills properly, and the mills therefore have not been able to crush all the sugar that's been planted. So sugar's been left in the field, and it's just a spiral down. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, and so the business has over 1,000 farmers producing sugarcane. It's got over 900 employees who basically rely on that business. It's got hundreds of suppliers that supply, you know, technical ability and engineering work to maintaining the mills during the off season and during the crush. And then when the sugar comes out the other end, it's sold on to other businesses that process it. There's a port, you know, there's storage facilities. And
so if this business went under, or it's declining,
it's too big to fail.
It's too big to fail.
It's like a...
It really would be a catastrophe for that area.
It would be an utter catastrophe for the area. Clearly the farmers would be able to eventually grow something else
I don't imagine that's something you can just. Oh, we've been.
You can't do it like that.
No, it's a season, isn't it?
No, you can't. You can't.
Well, I imagine you've got to get rid of it, and then you've got to
expertise.
Yeah.
They're experts in producing sugarcane.
Mm.
You know, they aren't experts in producing nuts or citrus or whatever the case may be. So you know, the livelihoods of all of those farmers would just be completely obliterated within a
So when you're working on something such a big project,
yes.
and you're thinking ahead, and you think you obviously got to raise the funds, you've got to get the buy-in from different entities, and you know, imagine the farmers have got to buy into this, and you know, there's a whole.
Yes, because they own the business, and it's the management of that business that's got them into the problem. So and now some external investors want to come along and basically own the majority of it.
Yeah.
So that is significant, and to enable this to work, they've got to trust the people that are going to do the work in the management team that helps them recover, and they have to be very, very careful that their values are aligned with the values of the new people coming in to deliver this change.
There sounds like there's some possible opportunities for BeCollaboration to be involved with that. Now, we've not actually spoken about this directly, but if you're going to start merging new investors with old school, they've got to move on and think differently. They've got to kind of find a way that will connect and align them going forward together, as opposed to we're going to come and I don't know, shut them lot down, do that, and like administer to them. As opposed to
we're not in it to rape and pillage this business whatsoever. We're in it to help the farming community, and we're in it to help the millers, and we're in it to help the refiners and the stock feed producers and potentially the ethanol producers, the shipping company that transports the stuff to New Zealand and also other parts of Asia where the product is sold, and there's a whole supply chain involved here, and it's a relatively straightforward turnaround story that requires money, and for the money that comes in, the investors will want a return, but they'll want to basically see that putting the money in helps this community and this business.
So for them, social impact, these particular investors is really important. So they've got a stack of money. Yes, they want to see a return of money, but they also want to make sure that it's not an exploitative process. It's a generative process. Like people are left impacted positively.
That's right. Generate more jobs, either directly or
That's
through
got to be
supplies.
a much better return long term anyway, no?
Yes, because you know, having an impact on a community like that in such an important growing area for sugarcane has incredible knock-on effects.
Yeah, because I'd imagine also if you're in that community, part of the process or part of the supply chain, whatever your involvement is, and this money's come along and suddenly, I don't know, off the back of it, schools are being, roads are being, I imagine there's an ongoing knock, because obviously there's resources and there's affluence coming to that area. It's like anything. If you irrigate an area, it starts to grow.
Yeah.
So people will know that they'll have an experience and a view of how it was.
Yes.
They'll look at probably some of the changes will be a little bit uncomfortable, and then 5 years time they look back and go,
"Wow!" So that's the.
And you've seen that all the way through yourself.
Yes. So that is the whole point. Having a really positive impact on the whole community is really essential to me as a person.
That's the heart of what you're about, isn't it? It's that's a lovely way to go to sleep at night, isn't it? Saying, I made a difference.
And I'm flipping the subject quite considerably here. So you I can't remember, you were born in England and grew up in Zimbabwe. Yeah, not born in Zimbabwe, right? Mm-hmm. So your formative years, your early years were in Africa.
Yeah, out in the middle of the bush in a mining town in the middle of nowhere with farmers for my neighbours. Yeah, yeah. So that gives you a big insight into that world, doesn't it? Yeah. In that world, and all right, this is Australia this time, but there's other. Imagine this deal gets done or doesn't get done. I suppose there'll come a point where it happened or it didn't happen. If it happens, is that something that'll take over your life for 4 or 5 years, or is that something you package and then? Are you involved with the ongoing process, or is it yes.
just that,
So you have involvement with the ongoing process because you are effectively a steward of the investor's money to deliver a return and to deliver positive outcomes.
Now, is that something that you carry as an individual, or are you part of a board, or how does that?
Part of a team.
Yeah, not so you could.
Yeah, you can't deliver all of this on your own.
So there's a theme there, people. There's a theme there. But going back to Zimbabwe.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Hey, family water. So, in terms of Zimbabwe, what do you recall of that? I mean, what were your? Because that would be what, late 60s, early 70s.
So
yeah,
early 70s.
Early 70s.
Yes. I went to junior school there and senior school, and my last year at senior school was 1981. So Mr. Mugabe came to power in 1980. So I'd had a year of him, and we went through the whole Zimbabwe transition, and then I left to go to university at the end of 1981, and I've been back there once.
Really?
I went back in 1995 on holiday before the thing really went down. And I like to remember it as it was. You know, I've still got friends who live there. A number of the team of people who I used to work with still live and work, you know, in Zimbabwe. They don't have farms anymore. So what's basically happened is they've been kicked off their farms, and they basically helped the business that I used to work for and was a partner in terms of finding opportunities. And you know, a lot of the guys and girls who were on the farms in Zimbabwe have either moved to Australia or South Africa or gone north to Zambia. And a lot of the Zimbabwean farming community actually helped the Zambian agricultural industry recover to where it is today, where it's actually now much, much stronger than it was 15 years ago or so. And they've had the same impact in other countries like Tanzania and Kenya, for example.
So how do you feel about the political situation now? Do you keep tabs on it, out of interest?
I keep tabs, and I fully understand that, you know, 30 odd years of arguably corrupt environment is going to take a long time to wash itself clean. But things are moving in the right direction. Confidence is coming back, and you know, time will tell. But it's a very, very beautiful place with fantastic amount of natural resources.
Do you think you'll ever?
Will I ever go back? Probably not to live.
It's like it's changed too much, or would you have?
I married an English girl, and we have 2 pommy kids.
But what's it like growing up as a what would you know? Would you be a white person? What would you be called? I mean, I don't know, because we talked about this the other day.
Yes.
And there's all these different names.
Okay.
You know, like the way in Africa especially, how people relate to each other, colours, blacks.
Yes.
There's all these different gradings. Are you technically
white?
Are you whiter than white, or are you kind of off white, or are you kind of sub white? Or are you the top of the tree white?
Because I was English, and because English people get burnt in the sun,
yes,
you're called a Royneck.
Royneck,
which means redneck. Yeah.
Yeah. I can hear the banjo playing. So
I'm very much white.
Yeah.
As far as they're concerned,
yeah.
You know, there've been generations and generations and generations of people who have moved up from South Africa to Zimbabwe, who have, you know, Dutch background, Afrikaans background, and Europeans.
But your dad was English, yeah?
My dad was English.
And what year did he? You know, so he's obviously picked up his family, because you were obviously young at the time.
Picked up his family at the age of 49 years old and took us out to.
Wow. Was he running away from something, or was it the?
Running to opportunity. A lot of people did it in those days. It's that era.
Was someone after him?
I'm absolutely certain that he wasn't running away from anything at all. He saw an advert in the newspaper to go and apply for a job, and he thought this would be great. And frankly, he was basically sick of the poor weather, and in fact, I wasn't particularly well as a youngster. I was suffering a lot from childhood diseases, and I'd had years of one after the other, and
you thought that might be a more healthy environment,
yes,
and
much more
sunny climes. What was the work that he did when he went over? What was he?
So my dad was a mining engineer, and he used to work for the National Coal Board in mines in Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire, and he was a ventilation specialist.
Right.
So when he got to Africa, there was hardly any ventilation, and people who were working were passing out.
So he was welcome,
Very much welcome, Mr. Sherlock.
So he basically changed the working lives of thousands of miners in Zimbabwe in the early 1970s.
Do you think that's where maybe your concern for social impact was important? Did your dad have a sense of social impact, or did he?
My dad just had a sense of helping and doing the right thing. And I wouldn't have thought that the whole sort of social impact thing, which is kind of a modern description of communities growing, he wouldn't have had that really as a phrase in his vocabulary. But he was a man that really did make a huge difference to the working lives of a number of people, and helped those mining companies become a hell of a lot more efficient and productive through doing what he did. And he was technically very skilled as a mining engineer in England at the time anyway. But when he got to Africa and he saw how these people were working, essentially little fans trying to ventilate areas where miners were working a hell of a long way from where the fan was actually.
Because as you go down, it gets hot, doesn't it? As well.
As you go down, it
gets hot, and then you also got the particles in the air, things like that.
That's right. So the main thing to do is to exhaust.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. If you can suck more and basically blow to the same volume, you get a flow of air going through. And that's what he did.
So I've changed the subject of my mind. What was it like? I mean, what was it like? You said you've gone from you was up in Sheffield. No, you said Leicester area.
Leicester and Nottingham.
And then suddenly and how old was you? And you end up in Zimbabwe. 5. What was your early experiences? Was you welcome? Did you feel isolated? Was it a big adventure? Did you? I mean, how was it? How do you think it? I mean, looking back now.
Well, I was.
Was you scared?
No, not at all. So I was an outsider, and this little Roynick, who certain people thought they could push around until I thumped a couple of them.
Okay.
And then established myself.
Because you don't look like a little Roynick, they look like a big Roynick.
Yeah.
Jumbo size Roynick.
You do what you have to do to sort of make a level for yourself.
So you establish yourself, but
yes, that's right.
But then was it like kind of plain sailing after that? You enjoyed Africa. What age did you come back?
I came back at 20. What was I? 23 or 24.
Yeah.
When I came back to the UK. So I'd done primary school, senior school, been to university, worked for a couple of years afterwards.
And was you segregated?
Was we segregated?
Yeah.
Yes, we were.
And how did that occur to you at the time?
So rather interestingly, we had a house in a town, and we had 2 servants who actually lived on the property. So we were segregated, but
servants.
We had servants who were basically living with us and in and out of our house.
And what's your relationship with the servants? I mean,
fantastic.
They were like your auntie, your uncle, whatever. How would? I don't know. I'm asking because I'm really intrigued.
What your servants do?
I would love some servants. I would actually. I think I could get used to that.
Yeah.
So when
Is that what they were called, servants?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know,
They weren't slaves.
we had
it's not that far away.
Well, I don't know. Servant doesn't sound that far
so we
away.
had a houseboy and a garden boy.
That's what they were called.
Yeah. That's what they were called.
I've got one of those. It's not Alan.
So the houseboy was he basically helped clean the place, helped keep the place clean, and he would be there to help my mum cook, although she used to do most of that herself. But because both of them lived on the premises, they had, you know, separate quarters. They would be around, so if my mum and dad wanted to go off and socialise and have an evening out,
I'd leave them with you.
naturally I was there with
And what were their names?
them. Arfak and Sixpence. So Arfak was the houseboy and Sixpence was the gardener.
How did you get the name Sixpence? Don't know,
Just
he came that way.
It was, yeah.
Do you think they were good?
He'd always been known as Sixpence.
Do you remember those, you know, for you with those times? Because that's really interesting, because we've got Rihanna Avis as well. She grew up in South Africa in Cape Town, and she tells her story of the early experience of, you know, she grew up there, you know, she was born and bred. And she explains her story about apartheid and, you know, the way life was and how you related to people and how her consciousness started to wake up to what was going on around her. And I think, you know, it's an experience I don't have. I've never, you know, I've never experienced what that might have been like. So I think it's really interesting.
So growing up for me, yes, there was the segregation. And even when I went to South Africa, you can see very, very famous pictures of carriages for blacks and carriages for whites, and I grew up through all of that, you know, and it's a real eye opener.
But at the time,
you
you took
know,
it as normal, didn't you? I was listening to a
as a-
radio show on at the moment about Martin Luther King, or about that era, and how the segregation worked. You know, there were drinking taps for blacks and they were drinking taps for coloureds and whites, and then you couldn't go to the museum. Thursday was the only day that the blacks could go to a museum, and if that happened to fall on the 4th of July or a public holiday, you couldn't go that month. You know, it was those kind of things that, and they said at the time they were thinking that that's how it was, and they didn't kind of question it. But they used to think, wonder what the water tastes like out of the white person's tap, you know, because they thought it must be something different. Maybe it tastes like lemonade. Maybe, you know, we're just getting plain old water. But youngsters, children, didn't question it. It just was. And it wasn't until they got older and Rosa Parks did her thing and various other people were brave enough. And there was a priest talking about how he liberated different towns by going to them with, there were supposed to be 400 priests and members of the community going into this town to sit on the buses on the wrong seats, you know, and be very brave and sit on the right seats. And he said, and we all, let's do it. And so Friday night came and they all went and 2 of them turned up. Like, well, we're here now, let's do it. So they did it anyway, and they got arrested. And they didn't think it was going to make any difference, and they got let out. It's like, well, that was a waste of time. But actually, it did have an impact, and it did cause it to change.
You know, it's hard because you grow up in this environment, and you've probably seen the film Gandhi, and he was in South Africa, and he wasn't even black. He was Indian, but you know, he was a man of colour. Let's put it that way, and not allowed to be on in a whites only carriage. And I think part of the beginning of the film focuses on him, a very, very well educated man, you know, from what is now KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, on a train, and basically being thrown off because he's in the wrong carriage. And you know, that existed for years. And you know, there were some very, very forward-thinking people in the white political community in South Africa that were the catalysts for that change. You know, a number of African countries had changed many, many years ago, where the Brits had pulled out, and countries like Kenya and Tanzania and Zambia and Malawi, for example, were given their independence, and there's a whole thing about Rhodesia and Zimbabwe, which I won't go into right now because it was all to do with characters and people standing up for what they believed in. In
so
Zimbabwe in
civil
particular,
rights,
it's Ian Smith as an ex-British fighter pilot, and so on and so forth, standing up for the community of white people in Zimbabwe, and then that eventually failed, and along came Mr. Mugabe, and things were fine for a while, and then it's kind of deteriorated, I'm afraid. But now things are coming back, I think, and South Africa is kind of going through a similar sort of situation politically. You have forward-thinking white people that said, right, okay, Nelson Mandela in prison don't make any sense at all. So him being freed after I think 27 years in prison, that was a big thing for that country.
It was, I remember. Yeah, I really remember because he walked out, didn't he? And all the gap with everybody was there. And I remember going to South Africa.
Walked out with Winnie, and unfortunately,
well, Winnie's passed away.
She passed away last week.
Yeah, passed away. Anyway, let's
politics.
Get right up to speed. So in terms of we've got some plans for BeCollaboration. Do you want to say anything about what we've got in the pipeline, or should we leave that for another time?
I think we should probably leave it for another time because
there's some really
teaser.
Some things are coming. All that I would like to say is this. Okay. All that I'd like to say is this. We've got some plans which will involve hopefully a lot of people from within the BeCollaboration community, where we have plans to help other businesses to grow and flourish. So we're going to need the skills of our little community to go and help have a positive impact on businesses in and around our area, and hopefully even beyond. So watch this space.
Watch this space. Well, that was an hour and 15 almost. Well done. see, you can't shut you up there, can we?
It's a chat.
It's a chat.
And we didn't even get to talk about your known be known. To be
what about
fair,
my known be known?
I just want to ask you, and I love asking this question, is what did you get from it? I mean, I know you gave an awful lot. I love sitting in the room watching people's faces when the person at the front of the room is like, oh, have I got anything to say? Oh, I'm not really sure if I should. I don't really know what to talk about. And they stand there and you say, and I looked at people's faces and they were like, it was, I imagine, an emotional experience to go through some of that story. But tell me from your perspective, how did it feel?
It was an enlightening experience for me because there were things that I had never spoken about before that I chose to speak about publicly. So I got a lot out of it. I remembered my brother, and he's been long dead. God bless him. But there was an opportunity to basically say, I've had certain influences on my life, and him and his passing was definitely one of them. So for me, it was good to be able to stand up in front of the people in the room and say, hey, this is me, what you see is basically what you get, and that's it. Take it or leave it. I think
that's a bit of a shortcut version of it.
I think
much better than that.
A lot of people have basically seen that and gone, all right. And I tell you what, I wouldn't have been able to have done that if I hadn't sat through a certain other person's know and be known and seen the courage of that person delivering their know and be known on a very personal and emotional level.
Do you want to? Can we name that person? Is that
I
okay?
don't see why not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Kay Westrap. Thank you,
Yeah.
Kay.
I think we knew
Well
that
done,
one, but
Kay.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Kay.
Yeah, without your known be known, I wouldn't have been able to have given mine, and you weren't even there for mine.
Yeah.
So
No,
No.
we've got it on video,
Yeah.
and we'll probably
Yeah.
schedule
Yeah.
for another one
Yeah.
soon.
And you know what I think a lot of people took
Yes.
from your one? There's a man standing there with a very big heart.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Because that's the truth. you
Yeah.
know.
Big Roy Nick.
That's that's the truth.
But it was because you look, you know, for me that, you know, remember Jill and I've been doing this a while, you know, and you watch that video back, the one you do now, and then you probably do something in a year or 6 months, and a year, 2 years later, you look back at that and you see how far you've come in being who you want to be, who you choose to be.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, this whole thing about our being and creating our being from a place of choice, and then sharing that with a community in this safe environment, then that impacts all the other areas. You know, that'll impact the way you deal with the Australian project or the Le Mans team, because you know when that happens, right?
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for showing up, for being there, and for being part of the journey going forward. Like taking an interest in taking this social impact concept that makes a difference to people individually and holistically, and you know, the idea is it goes deep. You know, it goes into people's lives. You know, a lot often collaborators say, "I'm going to take the stuff from here and bring it out to the world." You know, like share these ideas.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for your friendship. I want to thank you for partnership and the courage to say, "Okay, I need to think about this," or "You need to think," because I'm not an easy person to kind of influence. You was going, for God, right?
No, we're not going to go there.
No, that'd be another hour and a half. But you know, I really want to thank you for being on the journey of possibility with us today. I mean, you're a fantastic person, fantastic contribution to the community.
Love you lots.
And
we
love you lots, bro.
Yay. Give us a hug, you. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Lovely
Thank you.
you.
So that's Chris Sherlock and Gill, Tiney, and me, Erkan, Ali, and we want to thank you for being here today, being with us. Please take care of yourselves and
see you next time.
see you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Punchy.